Welcome everyone to Stadium Journeys Obstructed Views, the show where a couple of guys in a couple of countries have a couple of beers and discuss the stadium somewhere in the world and their experiences there. I'm Paul.
And I'm Dave.
And we are happy to be here with you tonight. So before we get started, please make sure to subscribe to the Stadium Journey YouTube page. Like this video, leave comments, be interactive. We like that kind of stuff. The official Stadium Journey review of today's venue can be found at stadiumjourney.com, or the link to the review can be found right in the comments below, right on this page. So let's get rolling. Dave, what are you drinking today?
Okay, so I'm pulling a page out of the Paul Baker book, and I made sure to hit a brewery while I was on a stadium journey. And this one is kind of like a away from home kind of place. So I was recently in North Bay, Ontario, which is the home of one of my alma maters, Nipissing University. But I was recently there to see the North Bay Battalion, and I stopped in at Gateway City Brewery, and I've got myself a Marathon Beach Saison 30. So it's pretty good, very kind of North Bay-ish. North Bay, lots of fishing there. So yeah, you got the little guy there. But no, it's pretty good. Really close to my university. Well, it wasn't there when I was there, that's for sure. And it was kind of tucked way around in the back, but I looked it up, found it, and pleasantly surprised. What do you got?
Nice. We both have beers with fancy cans. So I also took a page out of the Paul Baker book, and on one of my stadium journeys, stopped in a local brew pub. This was actually recommended to me by a friend. So I have, this is a very fancy can. So let's see, this is the Little Sister Session Ale from the Last Chair Brewery in Plymouth, New Hampshire. So this is an American pale ale. There's the girl drinking the beer, I guess. Very nice. We actually picked up this beer a while ago, and I've had this one hidden in the fridge because I didn't want anybody else to grab it before we did the show. So that's what I've got today. And if you were visiting today's destination, you might be drinking a Terrapin Hopsecutioner while you hang out at the Terrapin Tap Room right at the Battery, because today we're talking about Truist Park, home of the Atlanta Braves. Before we dive into our conversation, let's take a look at the Stadium Vitals. All right, so we're talking Atlanta Braves here, and Atlanta, I guess, has become, and a disclaimer before we start, Lloyd, our Atlanta regional correspondent, please be nice to us when you see this, because Lloyd, while Lloyd is a huge supporter of us, he is also our biggest critic. So
when it comes to the South, that's for sure.
When it comes to Atlanta, he will fiercely defend his teams. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I respect that, but I'm just awaiting the inevitable backlash. But anyway, Atlanta has kind of become, and this is the first thing he's going to complain about, they've become the poster child for the disposable stadium. And I think if you go through their history, I mean, how disposable can it be? They've been around for over 100 years. They have played in the most home ballparks of any team in the majors. If you go back throughout their whole history, dating all the way back to Boston, through Milwaukee, and into Atlanta. But just in Atlanta, they're on their third ballpark.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's in the past 25 years. So they had Atlanta Fulton County Stadium, where they played for a while. Then they moved to Turner Field, which they moved in, I think, 97 after the Olympics.
After the Olympics, yep. That was Turner Field was the Olympic stadium before.
Right. So and now we're in 2022. How long have they been at Truist Park now? 3 years?
2017 they opened.
All right, so 5 years. This will be their fifth season. We're recording this in 2022. So they kind of bucked a trend too. They went from a downtown, Turner wasn't really downtown, but it was in the city. And they moved out to the suburbs. Now, the rationale for this is when they were prepping for the move, they said the great majority of their fan base is located north of the city, he tried to say. I've only had this much beer, guys. So they wanted the ballpark. One of their complaints about Turner Field was its location, difficult to get to for those fans in the north and the east of the city. So they moved the ballpark closer to them. Now, so while Truist Park has all the bells and whistles, all the stuff that a modern stadium is supposed to have, it just seems like it hasn't really captured the imagination and the support of your average baseball fan. Why would that be, Dave?
I think actually it has less to do with. Well, I think there are a couple factors. I think one, outsiders like you and I looked at it and said, "Well, wait a second, what was wrong with Turner Field?" And I mean, we have to admit that we, as Stadium Journey, are often guilty of this. Is that we go into a place looking at it from an outside point of view, for the most part, right? Like we're there once or twice, as opposed to somebody who wants to do like
Right.
season tickets, or they're
Great
doing
point,
3 or
great
4 or
point.
5 games a year, or a local, right? So from the
The people who
outside,
have to fight the traffic every day and
yep,
find the
yep,
parking every day.
yep.
Yes, good point.
From outsider point of view, I mein, what was wrong with Turner Field? I mean, I've been to Turner Field. Had you been to Turner Field?
Yes, I've been.
Yeah. I kind of got it because I did make a wrong turn while going to Turner Field, and it didn't feel like the safest neighborhood that I was in. I was thankful it was kind of still light out, but so I kind of get that part. But interesting, that was the one thing that I thought of right away too, is that they're bucking the trend. Like they're kind of going almost backwards in that they're going out to the burbs, whereas everybody else was bringing their stadiums in from the burbs.
When Kansas City is even saying that they want to move downtown. Yeah, Atlanta is bucking the trend.
Don't do that, Kansas City. I like Kauffman Stadium just the way it is. But I guess the other thing is that and maybe I look at this like from my lifetime, or even from like 1995 or something like that. The number of new stadiums has just it's 90% of the league has overturned. So once you get, oh well, here's another new one, and here's another, oh really? Now there's another new one, and it's not exciting anymore as an outsider, right? If you're a local, then probably it's exciting. Or if you're in a situation like, if they ever replace Oakland, and let's say they stay in Oakland, that's going to be exciting because Oakland was so bad.
Mm-hmm.
If they ever replace Tropicana Field, and stay in Tampa, St. Petersburg, that's going to be so big because that one is viewed so bad. But I feel that Turner Field wasn't viewed as so bad. I mean, my brother-in-law and I went down. We sent the family. They all flew to Florida. We drove to Florida and stopped at Turner Field on the way. Had a great time. There were some pieces that at Turner Field they couldn't replicate. Like you can't bring the Hank Aaron wall that's in the parking lot where he hit that 715.
750, yeah.
They can't bring that wall with them. They can't bring the Olympic experience with them out to the suburbs. So there were other parts of it. Now I give them credit that they haven't just like turned it into a parking garage or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
They have repurposed it. I know Lloyd is quite proud that his alma mater, Georgia State, has taken it over as their football stadium
and retrofitted it very nicely, from everything I hear.
I think so. Worth a visit.
Yeah.
If I could ever get down that far during college football.
If we only knew somebody who could set us up in Atlanta.
I'm not worried about being set up in Atlanta. I'm worried about somebody, covering my class.
Yeah. So the biggest problem one of the bigger problems that the locals had with Turner Field was that there was no neighborhood. So a big part of the building of Truist Field, and forgive me if I mess it up, because there's a Truist Field, a Truist Stadium, a Truist Park, and a Truist Point that I know of. And I think I just called it
Park. Make sure
I called it Truist
Park.
Field just now.
I think you did.
Yes. So see, I knew I was going to do that. I said I was going to do that. There was no neighborhood. There was nothing else immediately around. You had the remnants of the Atlanta Fulton County Stadium where Hank Aaron's wall was.
In Turner Field, yeah.
Yeah, and you had one restaurant that actually I thought was pretty good, but a lot of people really don't like it. But anyway, they wanted the whole experience. They wanted the live, work, play experience. So what did they do? They moved it where there was just nothing but land. They didn't take an existing neighborhood like you do in Boston with Fenway, or in Chicago with Wrigley, or in San Francisco. They built it from scratch. So they built the ballpark. They built this great neighborhood of shops and hotels and restaurants called the Battery. And they've got everything there. And they built, there's condominiums there, there's apartment buildings, there's everything you need right there. So it became a destination.
Now, you often compare, the Battery and Truist Field with Gillette Stadium and Patriot Place.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's my question. From my perspective, Atlanta did it all at once.
Yep.
And they basically opened the whole thing. And, ballpark, offices,
everything came
apartments,
up at once, yes.
Restaurants, everything. Boom. It's like one ginormously massive grand opening.
Right.
I feel that Gillette Stadium wasn't like that. That it was, okay, we built the stadium and we got the parking, and now what should we do? Now we'll add some stuff.
Yep.
So it seems to me like that Atlanta kind of jumped. I don't want to say they jumped the gun, because clearly they've learned from other areas, and behind the scenes they'll tell you it's as much about owning all of that stuff as
right
even having it there, right? Like the
right.
Braves control everything, and you start to hear that in other areas, like when the Blue Jays were exploring new ballpark sort of scenarios. The questions were being asked, well, what can they buy that's around Rogers Center now that they can build and control? Or if they move out past the airport, what can they build and control? And it seems like that's really the new model that I would say that Atlanta has really kind of pushed to the next level.
Yes.
Is not only are the Braves controlling the ballpark, but they're controlling the concessions and parking, which you see at lots of other places, but also the office buildings and the condos and all of those other parts that really make the facility a 365 day a year facility, as opposed to a 82 day facility or whatever.
And I just compare it to Gillette Stadium because Gillette Stadium, I think, did it first.
Mm-hmm.
They were the first one to take a ballpark in the middle of nowhere that didn't have an organic neighborhood around it and create the neighborhood. So that's the only reason I compare it to Gillette. And your points about the Battery are spot on, Dave. I couldn't agree with you more. And it was amazing that the whole thing just went up together, opened together, and it continues to grow. It's not just something this is what we got.
And they were in the right position. They had a place that they could keep playing. Like, I don't know what the timeline was for construction, but it wasn't like, oh man, we're going to have to go and play in Gwinnett for a year because we don't have a spot anymore, or play somewhere else. So that situation was good. I liked Truist Park. My tour guide was fantastic. He was no, seriously. Lloyd was great. He took my family and I around. I would say this: it felt there to me. There was a bit of a college feel to it, in that it seemed like there was a lot going on outside, kind of before the game. Not tailgating, but I don't know. One of the lasting memories that I have is that there was this like a drumline thing happening, and they performed. I think they did stuff in the park as well. I can't remember, but I definitely remember them, performing out in the square. And to me that reminded me of college football, right, where the band plays, for the fans outside somewhere in some square or plaza or something, and then they do their march and they go in. And that's kind of one of the things that I remember about that.
My biggest takeaway from Truist Park, right? Park.
Hmm.
I did it again. Now I have a mental block. Um, was the Braves Hall of Fame Museum one of the better done museums? I mean, you can't compare it to the gold standard, which is the Cincinnati Reds Hall of Fame, but that is an outstanding place to go visit, and it's right there on the concourse, right out in the open, where you can go in and out of the displays. And the centerpiece, of course, is the statue of Hank Aaron and the 755 home runs that he ended up hitting. So that was, I mean, I saw a lot of the park. We did a lot of wandering around. That was absolutely the highlight of the ballpark for me.
Yeah, yeah, you're bang on. And there was something like Turner Field. I thought did a good job with the stuff kind of outside. They had all the retired numbers, like they had Phil Necro's number out there and Glavin's number, like those kinds of things, and some statues as well. But I feel that in the ballpark, I think you had to either pay extra for the museum part or whatever, and it wasn't nearly as good. I don't even
Yeah.
remember. Like I remember my brother-in-law telling me about it because he decided to go for a walk about, and I stayed at the seats. Um, but yeah, absolutely at Truist Park, the museum was such a vast improvement from what they previously had. It was and you're right. It's definitely one of the better ones. I would say, in my experience, it's in the top four for sure.
Yeah, I would not disagree with you there. So yeah, this, like we said before in the intro, the ballpark's got everything that the modern fan would want. It's got your luxury areas. It's got your restaurant with the patio where you can overlook. I think it's in right field, the Chop House,
Mm-hmm.
where I've been told you can get some fantastic food there too. I think it's a little pricey maybe, but that's right there in the restaurant. You've got all these different areas, but even on review on the website is good, good, not great.
Yeah, it's just okay. When I was reviewing the review, I think one thing that was a little unfortunate was the timing. So this is kind of a COVID review.
True.
Um, so I would say that the fan score is probably right now as good as it's ever going to get with the Braves coming off of a World Series victory. Um, One thing that I noted from Lloyd's review is that the battery is kind of doing what it was meant to do. It's bringing people in earlier, keeping them there later, and
Emptying them of their cash.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Hey, if
I'm
you're running a business, that's what you want to do.
yeah, well, and and making sure that the cash is going in your pocket and not someone else's
Exactly.
pocket. Uh, I guess the bowl itself, you're not one of the things, of course, you're going to give up, and you're definitely giving it up in Atlanta. There is the view. You don't have a St. Louis or a Pittsburgh or a San Francisco view. You've got a very, it's not a Yankee Stadium view, but it's still it's pretty pedestrian. There's nothing that's going to make you wow. Oh my gosh, look at that! Look at that
Right. The
office
backdrop
building.
is office buildings and hotels. Right.
It's not awful, but there's nothing that'll wow you.
Yeah.
I think probably the other thing is that there's no signature thing, right? Like there's no. This is what this ballpark is known for. If it's Houston, it's the train. If it's Pittsburgh, it's the bridges. If it's
San Fran, it's the Cove.
yeah, or the
Yeah.
giant glove or
All right. So
whatever.
so is that just a factor of the ballpark only being in its fifth year, and it's something that they will develop and grow into,
I,
or is
I
it
think
just
that's part of it. I think the other part is that it's a heck of a lot harder to come up with original ideas too, right? Like we've said this when we talked about St. Louis, which is a little bit older than this, but a lot closer. If not it might just be the park that is just barely older than Truist Park, which I think is still the newest, is it not? Newest
I would
park in Major League
say,
Baseball?
oh no, Texas is now.
Oh, Texas. Well, I haven't been to Texas, so that's
I went
true.
to I went to the old Texas. Hot.
That's true. But you just, we said this about St. Louis is they kind of picked and chose stuff from other places and whatnot. And I don't know what that signature thing is going to be, It's not going to be like Kansas City Fountain. Maybe they'll come up with something. Maybe I missed it. I Turner Field, to me, it was like the Chick-fil-A cow. They had the chopping cow that I remembered. And I don't remember it being in SunTrust Park, because that's what it was when I was there. I had to say that at least once.
That's right. It might have been SunTrust. Yeah, a 4-year-old ballpark already is on its second name. Go figure.
I think we all went, like you, me, and Mark. We all went within like 3 months of each other or something.
I believe so. So all right. So before we wrap up our look here of Atlanta, you just mentioned the chopping cow. So that spurred something in my mind. With the Indians changing their names to the Guardians, are the Braves up next?
That's a good question. I don't know. I would say that. I mean, I'm not invested either way. I'm not of that descent, and I am not a resident of Atlanta or Cleveland or anything like that. From my perspective, I would say that the name Braves is far less egregious than the name Indians. There have been plenty who have been more outspoken about the tomahawk chop, and that whole tradition, we'll call it, for lack of a better term. I don't know. I could see. I guess I could see in the not too distant future Atlanta, not playing the music to encourage it. But I think it's really difficult to control 50,000 people if they want to just start, doing the tomahawk chop and singing the song themselves.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. I guess that's a good question. With the Redskins now fully out of that name and not even in the temporary name anymore. Pretty much the NCAA has run their course, and now the Cleveland Indians are now the Guardians. Maybe, I don't know. Hard to say.
I'll give my take too, and it runs, very close to yours. I don't see the term Braves being offensive. Again, I'm not of that ethnicity, so I can't speak to it. I would say the Braves is a traditional name, but if it's offensive and traditional, that's what the Redskins were. And I don't know. Even when I was a little kid, I thought Redskins was offensive. Braves kind of is like the Chiefs. I don't see the Chiefs as being an offensive nickname either. And if I'm wrong, please let me know. The tomahawk chop, I would like to see abolished. Absolutely, I would like to not see that anymore. I find that pretty offensive from the outside. But the name Braves itself, I could see why people might want it changed. But I don't know. To me, I don't know. That's really if you've got a horse in the race, that's something you can weigh in on. I really don't. So I can see it going either way. So the Braves defending world champions as of this recording. So something they couldn't really do over in Turner Field, right? They could win division titles every year, but they only brought home one series title in all those years.
Did they even do that in Turner Field? I don't even remember.
That might have overlapped because that was all through the 90s, right?
Well, in 92, the Jays played Atlanta, and that was that
would have been at the old ballpark. Yep.
And when did Atlanta win?
95, 94?
No.
Could have been 94.
Sorry, not 94. 95?
I think so.
I think it was 95.
Yeah. Mid-90s. So, yeah. All right. So they didn't win one at Turner either. So started off the new ballpark with a bang.
That's a lot of actually that's one thing they could be known for is the sheer volume of division championship banners they have, because they have a lot, like 13 in a row or something like that. That's some
Yeah.
serious success.
I think there
And
was
who
one year
knows?
where they didn't win it.
Let's face it, it's a different era. In many cases, they became America's ball team through Ted Turner. You know, if there were celebrity baseball fans, were there ever bigger celebrity baseball fans in the '90s than Ted Turner and Jane Fonda
Ted and Jane, yeah.
sitting there in the front row? But yeah, now of course they're not owned by Turner anymore. I don't even know. I think they're owned by like a person as opposed to whatever Time Warner or whatever company actually owns the Turner thing now. So yeah, it's a new era in Atlanta baseball. And if we are going to mention that the Braves won the World Series, I can't go without mentioning that they were led there by Canada's own general manager, Alex Anthopoulos, who the Toronto Blue Jays totally dropped the ball by letting him go, but I digress.
And so that's where we're going to end our conversation. That's our look at Truist Park. Hope you enjoyed listening along with us, and we hope to see you in the ballpark real soon. Cheers.
Cheers.